Hey guys, it's Miss Patrick, and I'm going to be reading you a book called Hidden Figures. It's going to take us a little bit to get through it, but I'm going to read you one chapter a day, and then eventually you'll be able to take an AR test on it. So I'm very excited about this book. We'll be learning about space this year, and we'll also be learning about how different races had to overcome obstacles in their life to be able to do things that they get to do today. So here we go, Hidden Figures. We're gonna read the chapter 1. Growing up in Hampton, Virginia, I assumed the face of science was brown like mine. My dad worked at the Langley Research Center at NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. He started there as an engineer intern in 1964 and retired as an internationally respected climate scientist in 2004. Our next-door neighbor taught physics. Our church pews were crowded with mathematicians. I knew so many African Americans working in science, math, and engineering that I thought that's just what black folks did. My father, who as a high school student had wanted to study electrical engineering, lived a different story. Become a physical education teacher, my grandfather told him. He thought my dad would have trouble finding work as an engineer. In the 1960s, most college-educated African Americans took teaching jobs or worked for the postal office. As late as 1970, just 1% of all American engineers were black, and my father was one of them. Because of my father's job, I was part of the NASA family. I grew up saving my allowance to buy tickets to ride ponies at the annual NASA Carnival and sharing my Christmas wish list with the Santa at the NASA holiday party. On Thursday nights, I sat with my family and cheered for the Stars, my dad's NBA team. That's the NASA Basketball Association. My Sunday school teacher worked at NASA as a computer. Doing the complex math for the aerospace engineer, she wasn't alone. From the 1940s through the 1970s, hundreds of women, many of whom were black, worked as mathematicians at NASA. It wasn't until I was older that I appreciated just how extraordinary this occupation was for black women in the South during the days of segregation. The first 5 women were hired at Langley as computers in 1935, and they were white. 10 years later, there were more than 400 women working as mathematicians, and many of them were black. The contributions made by these African American women have never been heralded, but they deserve to be remembered. And not as a side note in someone else's account, but as the center of their own story. These women should be celebrated, not just because they are black or because they are women, but because they are an important part of American history. This is their story. So that's our first chapter today, and tomorrow I'll start the story. Thanks for listening.